Earth has two next-door neighbors, and almost nobody tells you the most disturbing fact about them. Both of them are dead. Not lifeless rocks that were always empty. Dead. Mars and Venus were once two of the most Earth-like places in the entire solar system. Billions of years ago, you might have been able to stand on either one. Both had the ingredients for life. And then, one by one, something killed them. One froze into a silent red desert. The other became a furnace hot enough to melt metal. Two planets, two completely opposite deaths. And the reason it happened to them, and not to us, is a thinner line than you would ever want to believe. Let me show you how both of these worlds died, because it's also a warning. Start with Mars, because Mars is the one that breaks your heart. Today Mars is a frozen, rust-colored desert. Barely any air. No liquid water on the surface. Average temperature far below freezing. A dead, dry rock. But that is not how it started. The evidence is everywhere, written right into the planet's surface, and it's overwhelming. Mars has dried up riverbeds that wind across the landscape exactly like rivers do on Earth. Ancient lake floors. Deltas where rivers once spilled into standing water and dropped their sediment. The same fan shapes you'd see where a river meets the sea here. Minerals like clays and salts that only form when liquid water is present. Some scientists believe a vast ocean once covered much of the northern half of the planet. Billions of years ago, Mars was warmer, wetter, and wrapped in a thick atmosphere. Picture it. A Mars with blue water, drifting clouds, rivers carving valleys, maybe waves lapping a shoreline. For a stretch of time, it may have been the second most habitable place in the solar system, sitting right next to Earth. If life ever got a foothold there, this was its window. So what went wrong? Here's the killer, and it's something Earth has that Mars lost. A magnetic field. Deep inside Earth, a churning core of molten metal generates a powerful magnetic field that wraps around the whole planet like an invisible shield. You can't see it or feel it, but it's doing something vital every second. It deflects the solar wind, a constant stream of high-energy particles blasting out from the sun. Particles that would otherwise strip our atmosphere away into space, molecule by molecule. Mars is smaller than Earth, and being smaller, its core cooled down faster. And when that core cooled, its magnetic field faded and died. That was the moment Mars was doomed. It just didn't happen all at once. With the shield gone, the solar wind hit the atmosphere head-on, with nothing to stop it, and over millions of years, it tore that atmosphere away into space. As the air thinned, the pressure dropped, the planet got colder, and the water either froze solid or escaped into the void. The rivers stopped. The lakes vanished. And Mars slowly suffocated, fading from a living, watery world into the frozen tomb we see today. So the clean way to say it is this. Mars died because it lost its magnetic field, which let the solar wind strip away its atmosphere, turning a once watery world into a frozen desert. It didn't explode. It didn't get hit. It just slowly lost its air and froze. Now hold that image in your mind. A planet that died from the cold, because the next one died from the exact opposite. And that's what makes this so unsettling. Because if Mars is the planet that froze, Venus is the planet that burned. And Venus should terrify you far more than Mars. Because Venus is almost exactly Earth's size. Almost exactly Earth's mass. Made of almost exactly the same material. Venus is, by every physical measurement, Earth's twin. If you line them up, you'd struggle to tell them apart. And yet, today, Venus is the closest thing to hell that exists in our solar system. The surface temperature is around 460 degrees Celsius, hot enough to melt lead. The air pressure is so crushing, it would flatten you instantly. The same pressure you would feel nearly a kilometer deep in our ocean. The sky rains sulfuric acid. We actually tried to land there. The Soviet Union sent a series of probes called Venera down to the surface in the 1970s and 1980s. Built like armored tanks, specifically to survive the descent. The planet destroyed them anyway. The toughest of them lasted about 2 hours before Venus crushed and cooked it into silence. Those few grainy photos, beamed back in the final minutes before each probe died, are nearly the only pictures we have from the surface of Earth's twin. Think about that. We have rovers that have roamed Mars for years. Venus kills our best machines in under 2 hours. So how does a planet that is basically Earth become that? The answer is a runaway greenhouse effect. And it is the part you should really pay attention to. Venus is closer to the sun than we are, so it started out hotter. Scientists think it may once have had oceans, just like Earth. But being that bit closer to the sun, those oceans began to evaporate. Now here is the deadly trap. Water vapor is a greenhouse gas. It traps heat. So more heat evaporated more water, and more water vapor trapped even more heat, which evaporated even more water. It fed on itself. A loop with no break. The oceans boiled away entirely. Then, the heat baked carbon dioxide out of the rocks, flooding the atmosphere with the most famous greenhouse gas of all, and the temperature spiraled into the hundreds of degrees. Once it started, nothing could stop it. Venus cooked itself alive and never recovered. So here's the clean version. Venus died from a runaway greenhouse effect, where evaporating oceans and rising carbon dioxide trapped more and more heat in an unstoppable loop, turning Earth's twin into the hottest planet in the solar system. Now step back and look at what you are actually seeing, because this is the part that matters. Earth is sitting right in the middle of two corpses. On one side, Mars, a planet that died of cold because it was too small to hold onto its shield and its air. On the other side, Venus, a planet that died of heat because it sat a little too close to the sun and lost control of its own atmosphere. Two opposite catastrophes. And Earth, by sheer luck of size and distance, threaded the needle between them, big enough to keep our molten core and our magnetic shield, far enough from the sun to keep our oceans from boiling. We are alive because we landed in the one narrow gap where a planet can survive. And that is the thought that should stay with you. The same two killers that destroyed our neighbors are not science fiction. A planet can lose its atmosphere. A planet can trigger a runaway greenhouse and overheat. We have watched both happen in detail to the two worlds closest to us. Venus in particular is a live warning. A planet that shows exactly what happens when greenhouse gases take full control of a world's atmosphere and never let go. Scientists study Venus not as a curiosity, but as a cautionary tale. The clearest example in existence of how a perfectly good planet can lose the control of its own air and cook itself. And Mars shows the other edge of the knife. What happens when a world simply is not strong enough to hold on to what keeps it alive? We like to think of Earth as permanent, solid, guaranteed. But Mars and Venus were once promising worlds too, and both of them died. One froze in the dark, one burned in the light, and our blue planet is simply the lucky one that, so far, has stayed perfectly balanced between the fire and the ice. So the next time you see Mars glowing red in the night sky, or Venus shining as the brightest point up there, remember what you are really looking at. Not just two planets, two warnings, two worlds that prove that being almost like Earth was never enough to save them.